Hello, beautiful friends. I'm so excited because today we are talking about our 2017 budget binder. I have pulled some amazing resources that I am super excited to share with you guys. They're all completely free, so aside from the supplies to actually make your binder, which would include a binder and a hole punch and some dividers and a folder maybe, everything that you need to create this is 100% free. So I will have links below for all of the information for the budget binder printables that I printed out. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and set up our budget binder together. Alright friends, so let's go ahead and get started. So this is the cover of our budget binder, and then if you want to take a look at what the spine looks like, there it is. That's kind of hard to see. So here we go. So that's just the spine of our budget binder, and then this is the cover. I was planning on changing out the cover for the binder, but I think I'm going to leave it the same just because we don't have a year on our binder, and I do really like the cover. I think it's cute and it makes me excited to actually open this. So let's go ahead and take a look inside, and what I'm going to do first is take out some things that we don't need. So I'm going to take out the things that we don't need for this year, and I will be right back. Alright guys, so I've cleared everything out of our budget binder, anything that we didn't need. I do have some pages in here that I'm just leaving in, and one of the things that I took out, which I'm debating on this, but it's the meals for the month insert that I made, and I did laminate this, and the great thing about this is that you can write in obviously all of your meals for the month, and you can just use a Sharpie, and then at the end of the month you can use I use, what's it called, like hand sanitizer, and I just wipe it all off. And then you can have your grocery list for the month as well. The reason that I'm planning on taking this out of my budget binder is just because I have this in my planner, my personal planner, and I use that to make grocery lists, and then I take that with me when we go to the grocery store. So I don't really need this in my budget binder as well. I'm only debating on keeping it in here just to have like kind of a record of what we eat throughout the month, and maybe even like the amount that we spend on the groceries for that week for those specific meals. So that is something that I'm still considering keeping in here, but for now I think I'm just going to pull it out, and then if I'll just save it, but if I want it, I can put it back in, and then I'll tell you guys how I'm using that. Total side note, you guys, but I made a peppermint mocha this morning. So good. Oh, so good. Okay. Okay, so let's get started with the fun part here and creating our budget binder. So what you need for your budget binder is a binder, of course. You also will want some dividers. So anything from, let's see here, I have some just, I have these like clear plastic page sleeves that I use, and then I have dividers in some of the sections that have specific months on them. So in this section, this is the budget section. I have from January to December in here. I also have some more of these dividers in the debt section just to keep our debts separated and spelled out exactly, you know, have different categories. These are actually blank, but I have each category listed behind these, so that was pretty useful. So you may need a couple sets of those, just depending. You can certainly just do one set of 12, or maybe that would be like a set and a half, but get, you know, at least enough to cover for the months of the year if you wanted to do that, or if you want to break it up in a different way, you can certainly do that as well. And then with these page dividers, these clear like page sleeves, I've created like sections basically in my budget binder. So we have, the first one is financial overview, The second is budget. The third is for bills. The fourth section are for debts. The fifth is savings, and the final section that I have here is for sinking funds. So I just created this using some scrapbook paper. I just wrote, cut out like strips of scrapbook paper, wrote the category on here, and then used a little shape cutter paper thing. That's confusing, to make these little tab hearts, which you can use like anything that you have on hand. So that's one thing I would encourage you guys, and that's probably one thing I say in a lot of my videos, is just use what you have on hand. Don't run out and buy something just because you see that's how I have it. Use whatever works for you. Another thing I have in here is a small clear sleeve. Let's see if you guys can see that very well. Oh, here we go. It's a small clear sleeve, and we keep our checkbook in here. I did take it out in the beginning, just so I don't give out any of those numbers. But we keep our checkbook in here, and that's really, really convenient because either my husband or myself can run to our budget binder and grab that out. We know exactly where it is at all times. And then the last thing we have is a very heavy-duty like plastic folder, and we'll keep like bills or statements or things that need to be paid or things that are coming up. For example, like my car registration, I would probably keep it in here until it's paid, and then I will file it away. So that is just kind of a handy tool, and I prefer to have an actual folder in here as opposed to using the little pockets within the binder itself, because those I feel like are a little bit, it's easy to like get them messed up and get them like pulled out of shape. And the last thing or the first thing I guess that I have in here is our baby steps, or the baby steps. So the first one is $1,000 in an emergency fund. Pay off all debt is number 2. 3 is 3 to 6 months of expenses in savings. 4 is to invest 15% of income. 5 is to grow personal development funding. 6 is to pay off your home early, and 7 is build wealth and give. And that is something, again, that I've laminated and I just have kept in here as just kind of encouragement and motivation for us, and a reminder of which step that we're on and what we're working towards to get down here to number 7. So anywho, let's go ahead and get started, guys. I printed out all new sheets for my budget binder for this year. These are all free. I will have them all linked below. They are literally from Pinterest and different like blogs through Pinterest. So there are tons and tons of resources that you can find and use and really create exactly what it is that you're looking for with your budget binder. I have noticed a trend that a lot of people, for a lot of budget binders, they don't have specifically what I would want like in my entire budget binder. So they'll have like bits and pieces. For example, this cover I got everything from this like main shop, which is called Just a Girl and Her Blog. And so I got a lot of components from her. I think I printed out every sheet that she has to offer for her budget binder, but it didn't have things like tracking your debt. It didn't have like a, like cash flow or sinking fund tracker. So I had to pull from a couple of different places, and you guys will see that throughout the inserts that I have here. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing here is we have a couple of different options, and I want you guys to be, aware of this. You can certainly, absolutely print it out in color. But if you don't have a color printer, or you just don't want to spend money on colored ink, you can certainly do black and white. It's just as cute and just as functional and gets the job done just as well. So those are a couple of options for your cover. I did end up printing mine out in color just because I could, so I figured, hey, why not? And the one thing that I love about this is that it's blank, so there's an option for a year, for a cover that has the year written out, but there's also an option to fill in your own year, which I thought was really cool because you could use it for whenever, or you could put in your family name here instead of having to change it out every year, like we do here with our cover. I mean, it just says budget binder, so for whatever year we're in, it will work. So that is the first thing. So I'm going to put these aside since I'm going to keep our old cover. The very first thing that we're going to get into here is, it's a sheet called Our Financial Goals, and it has a goal, has a time frame, and an action step, and there's 4 of those sections on each page. So I printed out 2 of those, so I'm going to put these into our financial overview. section, which is our first section here. In this section, I also have sheets that I have saved from last year's binder with our account information. So that will be really helpful to have your account information if you are wanting to have all that information in one spot. So the other tool you need, of course, is a hole punch. So I'm just going to punch the holes in these guys. Alright, so there's our financial goals. And if you guys have seen my goal setting or our financial goal video for 2017, you pretty much know what our goals are. So I'm going to fill that out after this. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. So the next thing we have here, and it's from the same source, Just a Girl and Her blog. It's a recurring expenses sheet, which I think is really cool. I actually have this I created this in our budget notebook, and I think it's so helpful. It has the expenses, it has a yearly, a quarterly, and a monthly category there, and then it has the amount due, the day due, and then the months spelled out, or just written out, January through December, so just the little abbreviation there. And basically, as you pay these bills, you can just put a check mark. So for an expense that's due yearly, my best example is car registration. You would just put a check mark in the month that you pay that, or you could actually highlight it before you pay the bill and say okay, this is the month that that bill is due, so we need to be able to forecast that and to include it in our budget and have our sinking fund set up for that. There's also quarterly, which is really helpful, and then monthly as well. And then monthly, of course, you just list out your monthly bills there, and then you're really able to use this checkbox system here to mark off when you pay that bill each month. And then the next page is just another kind of continuation of the expenses sheet. So you could either do all of your monthly bills on here and have that as a separate, or you could use it as an overflow, or whatever works for you. So I'm going to add that into our, let's see, I think I'm going to add that into our budget section in the beginning before the month section starts. Alright, so this next sheet is kind of similar to what we just talked about, but this is a monthly expenses tracker. So it is very interesting. I'm not really sure how I'm going to use this yet. I was thinking of using it as just kind of a monthly expenses sheet without listing the category, but I also really like the idea of listing each category to see how much we actually spend on those categories per month. So it says tracking our monthly expenses. It has a category section for you to fill in. It's blank. And then it has the budgeted amount, which I love. So say for instance, if we could use this for one thing that comes to mind is clothing, right? I'm not spending money on clothing this year, fingers crossed. But what we would do is the budgeted amount for us is $40 a month. We do put that into a sinking fund, so we don't necessarily plan to use it each month, but as we do need it, we can pull it out. So what we would just do for this is put the date that we would spend it on, where we spent it. So it says payee here, but you could certainly put the store or the website or what have you, the amount that you spent, and then the balance. So I think this is an excellent tool to use for sinking funds, which is a little bit, a ways back in my budget binder. But I think it will be an excellent tool to use for that because you'll be able to track exactly how much you spend within your sinking fund categories for a year. So that will be really helpful in setting your budget and your goals for the next year, because you'll be able to see realistically, truly, how much you spent on each category. So another one is cars. So any car maintenance. When did we get oil changes? How often? When did we buy windshield wipers? How often do we need to do that? When did we need to get our tires rotated? Things like that. So having this tracking system, I think, will be really, really helpful. So I'm planning to put that in our sinking fund category, and rather than using it as monthly expenses tracker. And I did print out quite a few of those, so we'll have those to go in the sinking fund category a bit later. So the next thing for our monthly section here is a monthly check-in sheet, which I think is so helpful. So it has a few different prompts for you, and it's a perfect thing to use to have your monthly check-in, your budget check-in. And if you do this more than just once a month, You can certainly print out more to accommodate that. But it says here at the top, how did we do last month? And then you list the month and you put things we did well and things we could improve on. So it gives you something to shoot for. So obviously you're going to be praising yourself for what went well, and then choosing a couple of areas to work on, or one area to work on that you could do a little bit better. And then it has a bottom section here that says specific goals for this month. You again write out the month and then put goals. So you have 4 sections to put different goals, and then there are bullet points for each goal. So obviously we know that when you set a goal, you can't just set a goal and forget it, right? You have to set a goal and have specific action towards it. So for my husband and I, for this month, a goal for us would be to pay $400 snowflake onto our smallest debt. So for each of these bullet points, we could put, either the amount that we want to pay per week. We could put what we're going to do to reach that goal. Maybe shave off money from our grocery budget, not eat out this month, do different things like that. But have different goals and specific bullet points for how you're going to achieve those goals. And then there's a section at the bottom also for notes. So you'll be able to make notes and to track, how you're doing and, how you're feeling about your goals and how you're getting there. So I'm going to put one of these in each of our monthly sections that we have that for our monthly check-in. All right, so another thing I'm going to add into our monthly sections is this monthly paycheck planner. Now this is from onecheaputahchick.com, and I love it. It has one of my favorite things about it is that it has several different income categories, and it also has different places for you to put the check amounts that were brought in, basically. So I love this. I feel like this will work very, very well for my husband and I because of the way that because of the way our income comes in, I think. There's also a section here for extra income, which is really cool. So you can use that for any gifts that you get, any bonuses, any like side work that you do, etc., etc. So there's a column for income 1 and income 2, and then again income 1, income 2. And then the extra income has an income 1 and income 2 as well. So you could assign, one for your husband for blue and for the wife for pink or what have you. If this doesn't apply to you, you can just use one of the columns. You could just use one income column, or you can certainly find something else that would work for you a little bit better. But it has tons and tons of categories here. There's a section for groceries. There's a section for auto, so your car payment, gas, maintenance, auto insurance. There's a section for credit cards, and there are 5 credit cards listed here. There's a household section, everything from cable and gas, water, sewer, and garbage, to cell phone bills, to repairs, to holidays and birthdays, to prescriptions. There's also a taxes and debts section here. So anything that's not a credit card, maybe that is another debt for you, like a student loan or a car payment is on there, but like a student loan or your mortgage or what have you. Let's see. Oh, well, mortgage and rent is in household. So anyway, so anything else that would be a debt for you. And then miscellaneous spending. So allowance, clothing, spa or beauty, dining out. So tons of categories that are really applicable for my life and for my husband and our life. There's also a total section, an income section. So you can put the amount of income that you made and then the amount that is going to savings. There's also a small little section for goals this month and then what we learned from last month. So again, I love that it has sections for you to reflect and then set new goals for the month so that you're always moving forward and you're always looking back on what was successful and what you can do better from the last month. So there's also a section here to fill in the month at the top. It kind of got cut off a little bit, but that is there as well. So I'm going to add that in with our monthly check-in pages. Alright, so on to our next section, which is our bill section. So for this guy, I printed off this bill pay checklist. So it again has the due date, the bill, the expense, the amount due, and then a monthly circle here for you to check off when the bill is paid. And primarily what I use this section for is to house our bills, basically. So when our bills come in, I will hole punch them basically and stick them in here for that current month. And then once they're paid, I will check them off, make sure they've gone through with, you know, anything that is like an auto debit situation, and then that will go into our filing system. So I'm going to keep this in here, and this section is pretty little, but that is what that is. And then another sheet that I printed off here, it's a cash flow worksheet. Now this is really interesting to me because it's more about the amount of money that's left in your bank account, which I've never really been super concerned with. Because we use the cash envelope system, we, you know, really just have the cash that we need out in our wallet at any given time, and then anything that we need to pay for with like our debit card or any bills is covered from our bank account, but we don't necessarily keep a lot of extra cash in our bank account. However, this sheet was really interesting to me, so I just printed a few off, and I thought it would be nice to incorporate somehow. So, alright guys, so we have these amazing sheets that are from debtfreecharts.blogspot.com, and there are tons and tons of options. This one is student loans. I have one for credit card. I have one for car loan. We also printed off some for a 6-month emergency fund and also a baby fund. So these are awesome because you can literally fill in the amount that you owe. So it's blank on the side here, and you start, you know, basically from 0 down here, and you go up to the amount that you owe, and you color it in basically as you are paying off that amount. So say you had, you know, $1,000 owed to your student loan. As you go, you mark off and just color in across these lines what it's owed, and at the end it's completely colored in. So it's a really, really cool visual, and it's something that I have wanted to use and incorporate, but I hadn't yet. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I have enough for our credit card as well as my husband's student loan and our car payment as well, which our car loan won't be paid off this year, but we will see. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in order. Okay, and the other section, or sheet, what worksheet that I have for our debt section is our snowball worksheet. So it is, that's exactly what it's called. It has a place for you to fill in the company, the account number, the website that you go to make your payments, the login information, the due date, the minimum payment, the interest rate, and the credit limit. There's also a section to put the starting balance. So down here where these lines are, there's a section for the balance, the amount paid, the date, and then the confirmation number or notes. So I have printed one out for each of our debts, and I'm going to put that behind each category here along with these little trackers. So let's go ahead and do that. So the next section is our savings, and I do have a couple of other trackers to put in here. Like I mentioned, we have our 6-month emergency fund, which we won't be starting on until our debts are paid off, but I did print it out, so I figured we'd just have it in there. Another thing I printed out is a baby fund. So we've been talking a lot about starting a family, and while we have not officially done so yet, we are, you know, we're just in the phases of talking about it, and so I figure if we're talking about it, then we may as well start planning it and at least setting up a small baby fund. So I printed out 2 because I want to do 2 different funds basically. So while we are in just the planning stages, we are going to plan to save just $1,000 in a fund for you know, if we do end up starting a family. And then if once our debts are paid off, and this is going to be the fund for while we're paying off our debts, so it'll be, I've actually researched it already, so you can pretty much get everything you need for a baby, $4,000. So that's why we're starting with that. Once our debts are paid off, we will do a larger fund at that time, because basically, like, once our debts are paid off, we will feel very comfortable starting a family. Until that point, we're anxious to do so, but we know that it's probably not the best time to do so. So this will kind of help us to, well, be looking ahead and planning ahead and being excited, but this fund will really give us like a good peace of mind. So I have 2 of those. I'm going to put these into our savings section here. Alright, and we'll be filling those out as we go. So the last section is our sinking fund, and again, I have the tracking our monthly expenses sheets in here. I also have a sheet that I used last year, which is the clothing needs list. So what we'll do with this is just write down any needs that we have as far as clothing goes, especially for me because I will not be spending money on like personal items or, you know, and this is one of the things I'm doing a no spend on is clothing, just because I technically just do not need anything at all. So this will help us to really look at what our needs are and, you know, how often we need those things. We'll probably also include the date in the notes section here for when we need those things so that we can see if there's some sort of a pattern as well. So I'm going to put in our tracking our monthly expenses. Alright, and at the very back here I do have still our envelopes for our sinking funds. Now, we ended up not using these. Once we had gotten a specific amount in them, my husband became pretty uncomfortable with having them in our house, and so we decided to create bank accounts that have these categories attached to them. So that's now how we use it. It's through Capital One 360, so it's really easy for us to just use that at this point now, but I do still have the envelopes in here just in case we do change our mind about having them in those accounts, and in case we do want to go back to physically putting them into envelopes in this budget binder. And then the last things I have are just a couple of card holders. I actually do keep our extra cards in here, so extra debit cards are attached to accounts that we don't actually use, things like that I do keep in here, so that's why it's empty right now, because I didn't want you guys to see that. But that's it, and then just a couple of extra envelopes, and then a few other spines for the budget binder itself. So that is everything, guys. That is our budget binder overview for 2017. I hope this video is helpful. Again, I'll have everything linked below. Every resource I used was completely free. I did not pay for anything, and I don't think that you should have to really with creating a budget binder. So there are so many great resources out there that are easily accessible. So why would you pay money? Okay, friends, so that is it for our budget binder walkthrough and setup video. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it, and I hope that you are so excited about the year ahead and all that you have planned for this year to achieve with your budget and what you're going to use your money for. If you guys have any questions, definitely let me know. Leave them in a comment below. I hope that you've liked the video. If you have, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos just like this. I will talk to you very, very soon. Happy budgeting!